Hi, everyone. It's been so good to have you here at SLJ Picture Book Palooza. I'm really excited to be joined by the author and illustrator of All We Need. All We Need is a poetic celebration of the simplest things we need to be happy and the beauty of sharing them with others. The book's melodic verse and lush and cozy city scenes culminate in a joyous celebration of community and giving with a message: when we have all we need, plus a little to spare, the only need left is to share. The book is in stores now, and I'm really excited to introduce Kathy Wolf and Margot McGink. Kathy Wolf lives in Overland Park, Kansas, with her husband, her two kids, and Mike the dog. In addition to All We Need, she is also the author of What George Forgot. Margot McGink has lived in far-flung places all over the world, but now resides in Portland, Oregon. She loves to draw and write about the world around her, and she is also the author and illustrator of People Are Wild. Very excited to have you guys here. Let's start off with Margot. I'm sorry, let's start off with Kathy. This book is such a kid-friendly way to explore Maslow's hierarchy of needs. How did you approach writing the text for this book?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yes, my kids both learned about basic human needs and needs versus wants in elementary school several times, actually. And so we talked about it an awful lot at home. And I just thought, wouldn't it be cool to write a book about the basic needs we all have? And so I did. And I think it's also, in a more broad sense, it's also, I think it's good I liked the chance to sit back and kind of reflect. I think it's good for all of us, kids and adults, to take a moment to really think about what do we really need? What are our real needs in life? And to think about like what we might do to share, or to think about how we might help others and so that everyone can have all of their basic needs met.
Definitely. And I'm sure that this past year, it has everybody sort of reevaluating those things. Margot, there's a lot of greens and browns in the book. Why did you choose this color palette?
Well, so I wanted the color palette to be bright and happy, as well as earthy, because one of the main themes of the book to me is respect for the earth and its resources, which support life. So I chose kind of a more natural color palette.
Yeah. And so Kathy, you did talk about this a little bit, but why did you want to write this book, and why you think that the message is so important for children?
I think it's good to stop and think about what we have, and hopefully to be grateful maybe for some of the things that we have that we might sometimes take for granted, and to really take a minute to think about that and feel grateful for it. Just to think about how lucky we are to have what we have, and hopefully to think about ways we can share with others.
Definitely. So before I get into the questions that I would have for both of you, last question for Margot. I'll show this spread later, but one of my favorites in the book is when you show all the different food, because it really highlights the diversity of the people being featured. What's on that table, and why did you decide to include it?
Well, so when I was thinking about this spread, I really wanted to show all this food because sharing food is a way of sharing ourselves. Our family histories, our traditions, our stories are all tied up with food. And so it felt like a good opportunity to show the characters kind of bonding in that way. And I'll start at the top and go in clockwise order. So up at the top, we have gyoza, which I wanted to include because that in fifth grade, I lived in Japan actually in fourth and fifth grade, I lived in Japan. And when I lived there, there was this one time when I went to a friend's house, and his grandmother taught us how to fold gyoza, and it's something that I still think about today when I make gyoza. So I really wanted to include gyoza on this table.
Yeah,
And
and
then
it's
in
no,
clockwise order, we have a marak, which is a Somali stew, and sabayat, which is a Somali flatbread. And I was researching different Somali dishes, and I chose a common dish that felt like it would be a good potluck dish, one that, you know, you could load up in a big pot and bring to a potluck. And then continuing around the clock, we have borscht, which is another really special dish to me. My friend studied abroad in Ukraine, and it's one of my favorite recipes that she brought back from her host family in Ukraine. And it was one of the first things we did when she came back home. She shared that recipe with me, and I still love making that recipe to this day. And then continuing along the clock, we have tamales, which I knew as soon as I realized that we were going to have a character of Mexican heritage, I knew that I wanted to have tamales because they are the quintessential potluck food, right? Like you make them
yeah.
in this huge batch, and they're this perfect little package of food that you can share with as many people as you have tamales. So that's all the food. And I grew up, like you said, living all over the world, and my parents always encouraged my sisters and I to eat the cuisine of whatever culture we were living in. And it definitely broadened our tastes, broadened my tastes, and I really wanted to represent that experience in this book.
For sure. I think that food and really kind of brings everybody together because it's the one common thing that we have. We all have to sit down, we all eat at the table. And I've had a friend who talked about you mentioned gyoza, dumplings found in every single culture.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then how like that's sort of a universal thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that the characters are Mexican, and there aren't any named characters in the book, but the illustrations focus on this one particular family and friends. How did you two collaborate to bring the families to the page? Maybe start out with you, Kathy.
Well, you know, that was a lot. That was Margot really that did that. I wrote the words, and I had a plan for having a page turn before the last on each stanza where we mentioned the need, name the need. But really beyond that, it was all Margot coming up with how it would look. And I think she did a great job. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. And I love the warmth and the kindness and the diversity. I love how it all came together. I think she did a great job.
Thanks so much, Kathy. I think that the fact that you left it so open was such a gift. It's such a gift to illustrators when you have so much freedom to kind of come up with a visual narrative. So your text was really wonderful. I mean, we didn't really talk very much, but there was definitely collaboration in that your words had they had a universality to them that I think called for a multicultural cast of characters without us even talking about it, you know? So I kind of, when I read the book, I thought, this is a book about our common humanity and what unites us, no matter our gender, race, sexuality, religion, you know, whatever. So I had some back and forth with Allison, the editor, about my thoughts about who our characters were, and this is what we came up with. I didn't actually intend to focus on any one family more than the other. You know, in early sketches, my plan was to have kind of each spread show each family split screen style, kind of like I'll show you, kind of like the food prep page where we see all three families prepping in each three different spots. So my initial thoughts were to have that for every page where we just follow all these three families. but it felt a little too cluttered and busy. So we simplified by, you know, having the book how it is now. Yeah, that's how it turned out.
It worked so well. So the last question I have before we do a little read aloud for everybody. The book focuses on our human needs, but there's this overall feeling of kindness in the text and images. Was this intentional? And how did you work towards evoking this feeling in readers?
Kathy, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I think definitely I chose verse to write the book in, and I think the verse can help add a tone to a book, and I think it does kind of provide a tone, whether it's specifically kindness. I just think it kind of provides a warm tone, the way, or at least that was my intention. So hopefully that contributes to it. And then at the end, I definitely did want to, you'll see towards the end, you start to see how there is an interconnectedness, and how you can see that we all, one of our needs is each other. So, that I think helps provide a little bit of warmth and kindness. And then of course, at the end, the very last bit is, I did want to leave with a tone of kindness and caring and sharing and all that good stuff.
Yeah. That last message, that once all of our needs are met, the only need left is to share message. It's a message of kindness and love for our neighbor and taking care of those around us who might not have their needs met. And so my goal with the illustrations was to imbue this message throughout the book, from the beginning all the way through the end, so that by the time the reader got to that last page, I wanted for that to feel inevitable. Like, of course, that's the message of this book. And so I wanted to include a lot of smiles and hugs, and you'll notice that the families are intermingling a lot throughout the book. And I think that's how I was trying to imbue that message throughout the book.
Yeah, and it definitely comes across. With that being said, now I can share my screen. Bear with me just for 1 second. And we can start from the beginning and read this book out loud to everybody.
Okay.
Just 1 minute. And can you see my screen?
No, I can't. Oh, yes, I can. Yes,
Okay.
I can.
Margot, maybe just turn off your camera for 1 second.
Oh, right.
And now we'll start.
Okay. All We Need by Kathy Wolf, illustrated by Margot McGank. All we need is what's found in the breeze, in the stillness of nothing, in the rustle of trees. When we take a deep breath, what's not seen but is there, all we need is air. All we need is what falls from above, to fill up our glass and our bucket and tub, to drink to feel cool, to splash when it's hotter. All we need is water. All we need may be found in a book, in a welcoming classroom, or a curious look. We can try and may fail, but we'll gain in return. All we need is to learn. All we need is a roof overhead, walls to surround us, a cover, a bed, a place to feel safe, a place we feel known. All we need is a home. All we need is a belly that's filled to give us the strength to grow and rebuild. Whether it's roasted or simmered or stewed, all we need is food.
All we need is a hug and a smile, a shoulder to lean on every once in a while. The comfort of knowing that love never ends. All we need is our family and friends. And when we have found that we have all of these, when our cup trickles over, when we're well and at ease, when we have all we need, plus the little to spare, the only need left is to share.
Thank you so much for joining us for this author chat. All we need is available for purchase now. Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Kathy, for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming,
so
guys.
much. Yeah.